What's going on, my good people? Otis L. Milton here, the Mortgage Millennial, here to share a video with you guys. This is going to be something you do not want to miss. This content is from an interview that I did with one of my past clients who purchased a property using a non-traditional mortgage. So today, we're going to look at 5 steps on how you can purchase a property with a non-traditional mortgage. Maybe this fits for you, right? The economy is different today. People are earning income much differently than before in the past, right? So not everyone has a W-2, not everyone has a paycheck stubs. Maybe you're a part of the gig economy. Maybe you own a business yourself or you're self-employed and you think, oh my God, I don't have the proper documentation to qualify to purchase a property. So today we're going to cover 5 steps on how you can purchase a property with a non-traditional mortgage. Let's get it. This is a big deal. Otis, what is a non-traditional mortgage? Before we jump into that, let's look at what a traditional mortgage is. A traditional mortgage is a mortgage that's going to be backed by a few different entities. Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, FHA, VA, USDA, etc. Right? And on traditional mortgages, you have guidelines and compliance rules that have been set in place by legislation that a lender has to follow when qualifying a borrower, right? Really have to dig into their ability to repay the loan, right? So lots of guidelines, etc. Those are what your traditional mortgages are. Now, a non-traditional mortgage follows a lot of the same guidelines as a traditional, but they have a little bit more leeway in terms of how they qualify, right? And how they find a borrower's ability to repay a loan, right? So there's different ways with non-traditional mortgages to qualify, right? And so one of those ways is qualifying from actual bank statements, and that's what my client did. We looked at 12 months of his business bank statements and used that as his income to qualify. So this is what a non-traditional loan is. We're going to take a quick look at the video so you can take a seat.
We went to a couple different mortgage brokers, like traditional mortgage brokers that were, people recommended us to. And they all looked at my tax situation and told me to go redo my whole business and, change my payroll and change the way I was doing that I've been doing things for the past 10 years. So, and that we started this process maybe 2 years ago where we started looking at buying a house. And, I was getting turned away left and right. Just some people would say, you're eligible for $300,000 and, I'm in Los Angeles. You can't buy a shed with that.
Not at all. So first we have to find the loan program that's going to work for you, right? The right type of loan, right? So in the video, you'll see my client speak about how he actually went around shopping with mortgage professionals and nobody could offer him or knew a program that would work for him, right? So it's super important that you find the program that works for you. Right now, you can do that on your own by doing research. I understand a lot of terminology could be over your head. It could sound like in a completely different language, right? So that's why it's super important to lock in with a professional that you trust and that has a good rapport. But this is the next step, right? You have to know, okay, I want to purchase a property. I don't have traditional income, but what program is for me? So step number 2 is going to be knowing the type of program that it is that you need.
I think I found it on Reddit, to be perfectly honest. I found out about non-traditional loans or non-traditional mortgages. And initially I was very apprehensive because of, what happened in 2008. And a lot of the terminology is similar, but, after doing more research and, there's a lot of stigma attached to it. So after doing my own research, you don't really want to ask anybody about it because it's the second you say something like that, they think of 2008 and start warning you against it. Well, once I started doing my own research, I noticed how beneficial they are. I didn't have to change anything, any way I was doing business. In fact, the way I was doing business was actually beneficial for the type of loan that I was applying for, the mortgage I was applying for.
Step number 3 is you're going to have to know your strategy, right? So once you've determined that you have the loan program in place or idea that what you need, you got to know your strategy, right? So different markets, different times, even different geographical areas are going to have different strategies that you need to apply when purchasing a property, right? So knowing your strategy, right? Am I going to buy this property to stay in it for 30 years? Is this a beginner home for me? Is this a investment property? Is this something that I want to keep as an investment property, maybe as a rental? Knowing your strategy is a super important step, and that's step number 3 in getting ready to purchase a home with non-traditional financing.
My partner and I, my wife, we were initially apprehensive also about dropping a ton of money on a house during during a pandemic.
Right.
But, from what we've been seeing, it's like I could sell it to tomorrow for 100,000 more than I bought it for.
Yeah.
So
the next step is going to be to actually put this plan in action, right? You have to not be crippled by the fear, not be so caught up in all of the jargon and the media outtakes that you hear and you see, oh my God, interest rates are this, etc. You have to know that real estate's an investment, right? And it's a long-term investment. And if you look over the last 65, 70 years, what a property cost 50 years ago, there's not a property anywhere that costs that, right? And so real estate's always going to continue to appreciate. And so it's super important that once you start to do these things that you actually put that plan in place. Step number 4, get into action.
If you're in certain markets, it's almost idiotic not to buy something if you've got the opportunity to do it, because 100%. Even if there is a bubble burst, worst that could happen in Los Angeles, New York is what, 10%, 10%, and that'll be back within 6 months to a year, if that.
And the last step I want to give to you, and these steps don't necessarily have to be in order, right? But this is super important, right? And you're going to hear my clients speak about this. It's super important to work with someone who you can communicate very well with, right? Who understands you and who you understand, right? And who is willing to work for you to help you get to where you need to be. This cannot be undermined, right? So a lot of people get caught up in, I want the cheapest thing possible. But if you don't understand what you're doing, if the person can't deliver on what they're telling you they can give you, regardless of how cheap it is, it doesn't matter, right? So it's super important that you find someone that you have a connection with, right? That's someone you trust with, someone that has a track record of being able to get done what you need to get done.
So, I think for our process, there's just so much going on when you're buying a house. So being able to cross one thing off the list, like, oh, I'm not going to have to worry about the mortgage because, I've got Otis and I've got these guys that are really looking out for how my financial situation is and got my back. Taking that part out of the equation made it a lot easier to focus on actually finding a house, which was actually huge for us because we could I wasn't really worrying about the mortgage. I mean, a little bit, but not so much, just because, you guys had already kind of done all the legwork. So it was great to be able to just focus on finding the house.
This is the last step I want to share with you guys. Again, this is an absolute big deal. So non-traditional financing will continue to be a big thing in the real estate market, especially as the economy changes and people are earning money in lots of different ways, right? So with that being said, I am going to get back to work and get some stuff done, but I wanted to share these tips with you guys. Please like, comment, subscribe. Get in the comment section. Let me know if you have any thoughts, any questions. Until next time, one love.